Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to the Life Inner Show. I'm your host, Jason Wojo. On the Life Inner Show, we help people make more, work less, and create lives and businesses they love. I am joined by my co-host who is off-site right now. Peter, what's up, dude? Where are you?
I'm in an undisclosed location.
Undisclosed location.
Yes, I want people, a whole bunch of, fans coming over here and banging down my door and all that kind of stuff. So,
okay.
Yeah. No, we just finished the retreats in Dallas, Texas, man. And
Ooh, awesome.
It was an amazing experience. I'm just so blessed to be able to go and pour in people. And man, it's amazing what people can accomplish when they come to these retreats and mastermind and then go take
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Super, super cool. Well, we're glad you made it for the show. Dude, we got Diane Conklin on who she's won GKIC in Marketer of the Year award. She's just brilliant when it comes to marketing. And we have a great discussion here about how do you market, number one, and what are some things to look for? Like, how important is marketing? We get to dive into a lot of great things with her.
Yeah, and I want you guys to listen to this because obviously she said, I think at one point she's been doing marketing for 20 years? She said
30 years.
30 years, yeah.
30 years, yeah.
So we tend to overcomplicate how marketing should be and things like that. And I love how she boiled it down to being a very simple kind of a concept and how you actually do it, what you test and things like that. And you start looking from that perspective and, how you market all the time. And then you can actually go and do it.
Well, one of the things she said that I thought was awesome, she says, you don't do marketing, you are marketing. It's part of who you are. That's really cool.
Yeah,
let's go into our interview right now with Diane Conklin. Diane, what's up? Welcome to Life Inner Show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here and to share with you. I'm excited and can't wait to see what we're going to get into.
I'm super psyched here, Peter. So Diane and I have recently met and been acquainted over the past few weeks. And this woman is super bright and she has so many great tools and strategies and things to offer. I had to get her in front of our audience. And so Diane, tell people a little bit about yourself and what you kind of focus on with business growth and marketing and things like that.
Sure. My company is Complete Marketing Systems. And pretty much anything related to business growth. I'm well known for direct response marketing is kind of my thing. Do a lot of stuff offline as well as online. I believe that, integrating and really looking at where you want to be from the beginning, as far as the result that you want, and then working backwards is kind of the way to go. And so many people just don't think about why they're doing what they're doing. And so when we start to think about strategy and all of that, I do a lot of that sort of thing, but I've been in business for 30 years. That just means I'm old. So I've seen a lot of ups and downs, and it's pretty tough to trick me. And I love the fact that I'm pretty diverse in the people that I've worked with. And so it enables me to sort of take a little bit from over here and a little bit from over here and put it together and really make things work, as opposed to somebody who's been in one industry, the whole time, kind of gets set in that realm of this is how we do things. So I love the variety.
And so you also won GKIC Internet Marketer of the Year. And is that GKIC, for those who don't know, stands for Glazer Kennedy. That's for Bill Glazer and Dan Kennedy Inner Circle, I believe. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah.
And so tell us about that.
So it's an interesting thing. I wasn't even going to enter. And I was in a coaching group with Bill Glazer, and we were sitting at lunch, and he said, "Why didn't you enter for the Marketer of the Year award?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he goes, "Well, I think you should." And so I was like, okay. And so I entered, and I don't know how many entrants they have, but they narrow it down in the office, kind of the executive team, to the top 3. And then those top 3 present at the whatever the upcoming event is, and the people in the room vote. And so I'm really proud of the fact that I won that, because 750 of my peers, this wasn't just some.
Yeah, there wasn't like 5 of you. There's like,
yeah, right. And I was competing against, a lot of other great marketers and a lot of people that were doing some amazing things. And so to have that voted on, I think, by my peers is why it means so much to me. But it's a pretty cool thing. And, it was one of my proudest moments business wise.
Awesome. So for those top 3 spots, when it comes to voting, did you create a sales funnel, direct response them?
I had literally, I think it was 3 minutes or 5 minutes. in front of the stage. And so you really had to, I mean, talk about, really having to condense down like what you did. And, you can get up there and talk about numbers, but that's not all of it. Right. So it really was a fun challenge to really think about, okay, what can I do in this 3 to 5 minute span that's going to make people really see what I did and get the feel for the impact that it had. And I think, obviously something that I did worked. So it was a lot of fun, but.
And now those are lessons that you pass down to your clients and customers, things like that as well.
Oh, absolutely. Everything that one of the things I always say to people is I don't teach things and I don't talk about things that I'm either not doing or haven't done. And not 10 years ago, but, now kind of thing. So yeah, everything that you do in your life and in your business, and I said in your life and your business, right, really is relatable. I have a friend who says to me all the time, Diane, it's amazing to me how brilliant you are at taking just everyday things and relating them to business. But, I think when you apply things like that, it's easier for people to see, take a lesson from here, take a lesson from the dog or the sports or the, something that you see outside and bring it into your business. There's so many easy ways to apply things and people just don't think about it. Their brain isn't keyed into that.
Talk about that for a second. Do you mean like from marketing perspective, like an analogy or metaphor, or do you mean like a strategy or an approach, or like unpack that a little bit?
It's really both. And it's interesting because I have a really good friend that, I do a lot of things with it, and she's not a business person. And so having her look at so here's an example. I was out Saturday at a local place, and I'm walking around and there was this ice cream vendor there, and they actually had alcohol in the ice cream. And this stuff was like incredible. And as we're standing there as a group of us, and I'm kind of hanging back watching what's happening. Right. And so I said to them, what kind of distribution do you have? And she's like, oh, we just set up at fairs and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, would you like to further your distribution? And she was like, of course. I said, I know somebody who can help you. And she said, who? And I said, of course, I didn't wait for her. I grabbed her business card. And it wasn't that I was in business mode. It's just I saw this opportunity of this mass of people and they don't understand what they have, right? So that's just one example. But, I'll take, so the NBA playoffs are going on.
Yep.
And we're into the finals right now, right? And so there's been several things that have happened during those finals that during the playoff time that I've written about, that I've talked about. And again, it's part of it is because I have a sports background, but take anything that you're interested in and you can walk into that and find a lesson. I can't walk on a cruise line. I haven't been in a while because of where we are, but, and look at the back of the scenes, look at the marketing lessons, look at what are they doing? Why are they doing that? When I listen to a speaker, at some point in your life, in your business life, you have to change from student of learning. What are they saying? What are they doing? What can I learn? To why are they saying what they're saying? How are they saying what they're saying? Why did they say that right then and there? Why did they take their jacket off at that moment? I've seen this guy speak 5 times, and every time he takes his jacket off at the exact same time. He rolls his sleeves up with the exact same words that he says. It's thinking from the perspective of how can I learn from that perspective instead of always being concerned about what they're saying and writing it down and learning those lessons.
That's awesome. And that reminds me, I feel like I've also started to develop this perspective, not intentionally at first, by accident at first, but then it's drawn my attention to more things around me. So for instance, I was down in Myrtle Beach recently and I saw a billboard that said it was for a plumbing company and it said guaranteed in 30 minutes or less. And of course we've heard that phrase before for pizza, but I'm like, wow, what a great marketing. Because one of the things that people have problems with, like plumbers, for instance, is like, hey, we'll show up between 10 and 2. And you're like, come on, this could be, my house could be like flooding with water right now. And so that struck me. And as well as I was recently, just checking out at the grocery store next to my house, and the automated checkout, it says, thank you for shopping. And the name of the grocery store is Food Line. It says, thank you for shopping at Food Line. We'll see you again soon. And just that little, we'll see you again soon. What a subconscious, minimal, tiny little plant that, like, these things are all around us. And there's such a learning opportunity, I think, And I think that sometimes our best business ideas don't even come from business themselves. It's from something adjacent to what you're talking about here. And it's super cool. And I think when you develop that lens and that filter and you receive information through, that processing system, you start to, and by the way, little tip, like and you may do something like this as well, Diane. I always have like a little journal, a little tiny notebook with me. And I'm always scribbling stuff or taking notes on my phone, because I know I'll forget it by the time I'm at home. But I'm always trying to capture these ideas, and a lot of them turn into something you implement.
Yeah, I use Evernote for that because I always have my phone with me.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
It's interesting, Jason, because people get caught up in the wrong things, right? Oh, I got, what are the colors, this color scheme I should use for my company? Oh, I wouldn't spend $1,000 on this logo. It's like, that's stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. It does. But in the big picture, like that's the bottom of the rung stuff. Right? That's not the stuff that is going to make you money. And what I say to people is, what's your fastest path to cash? Because especially at the beginning, and many times even throughout, right, where we are in business, that's going to be the most important thing. How do I make it? And I narrow it down to one of three things. You either need cash now, you need a cash influx, or you need money over time, right? You need something that's sustainable. Or the third option is you need a cash influx that will sustain you over time. Those are three very different strategies. But the first time I said that, I was a business associate, and she was like, say that again. And I said it again. And she's like, Diane, that's brilliant. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, that's brilliant. And I'm like, it's just the way my brain has developed to think over time. But, we sometimes major on the minors, right? We think about like the little stuff, instead of what's the big picture and where am I? And I'm not talking about a 5-year plan. I'm talking about where do I want to be? Where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do I have to be 12 months from now to make whatever I'm doing now be like, yeah, this was worth it, right? And then breaking it down even further into what am I doing in the next 90 days to get myself to the point where 12 months from now, I'll be like, yeah, home run, right? Yeah, I am where I needed to be. And people want to do these long-term things, and they want to invest all this time and energy in these long-term strategies and in a 5-year business plan, when you don't need that unless you're going to the bank for money or to venture capitalists, right? What you need to be focusing on, what am I doing in the next 90 days? What's the one big goal in the next 90 days? And then what am I doing today, tomorrow, and next week to reach that goal? It really boils down to like that simple thing. It's not about your logo. It's not about your colors. It's not about having the fanciest website. It's not about any of that. There's some fancy newsletter. It's about the work that you're doing and how you're implementing and what you're getting done. It's about completions.
So when you talk about and by the way, like I love that you said that, because I remember a story from Steve Cook, our founder, who founded Life in Air. And he says that, everybody would come, he was a real estate investor, and all of his colleagues would be getting their logos and their business cards made and worrying about colors and this and that. And he's like, I was out making offers. Like 20 a day sometimes. And here he is, and he's the one that succeeded because he was working on the things that led to money. It's not just pretend business. Like, I think sometimes we like to pretend we're business owners and we're like, we have, like we're going to get the polo shirt with the logo and we're, but meanwhile, like there's someone out there who's grinding, and I don't mean grinding like they're in a negative way. I just mean like they're doing the right things. Yeah. They're doing the right things that lead to cash. So how does somebody like kind of know, I know you work with strategy as well. How does somebody really determine what are some of the facts they have to consider if they're determining which strategy to use? Because I know, like, as a business owner myself, and Peter, you've had several businesses as well. Like sometimes it's hard to tell. Like, of course, it seems like, well, and maybe it's dependent on growth. Maybe it's been dependent on stage of the business. Like when you're starting off, you just need like proof of concept. You need to make some money. Let's see if this thing works. Talk to us a little bit about like how someone identifies a strategy that is most appropriate for them.
Yeah. Peter, did you have something?
Yeah, I was going to add, I mean, it's not only that, but there are so many squirrels running around all over the place. Right?
Oh yeah. Like how do you choose the right ones?
Right. BSOS, right? Bright, shiny optics and squirrel. Right. Before I answer that, I just want to go back to something that you said, Jason, because, doing the right things as opposed to doing things right. Huge difference. Do the right things and it will lead you to success. Forget about doing things right. You're 85% is good enough. I'm not saying put out junk, but do the right things. And so how do you know what those things are? It's a great question. You don't always. Sorry.
Shucks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know you were looking for the magic pill, right? You were looking for my crystal ball is always wrong. But
For the 8-ball, shake up the 8-ball.
yeah, right.
Thanks a lot, Guru.
Right, come in very close. I'll tell you the secret. It's you. The secret is doing things, right? The secret is continuing to move. The secret is not stopping, right? You want to know why I'm still around after 30 years? It's really simple. Because I haven't done this. I'm gonna show you this. Ready? Oops, pen didn't work very well. I didn't do that.
Right.
What is that? That's drawing a line in the sand.
Horizontal.
Right? This proverbial line, and people do this. If I haven't made $100,000 or pick a number, right, by this date, I'm quitting. Okay.
Mhm.
Right? Here's my thing. It's fear. If I said that, what happens if I get to that date and I quit, and the next step I took, the next time I smacked the hammer, the diamonds opened up, right? The wall fell and there was the answer. So for me, it's that piece of, what if the next thing is the big thing? What if the next step? What if the next call? What if the next me talking to somebody, on a Saturday afternoon at a vendor fair that I just happened upon, right, is the next big thing. So the piece of this is to look at things. The problem is that most people don't have a strategy. Most people don't start out and say, what do I want out of this? They just throw mud on the wall, right? They just throw. Well, the problem with throwing mud on the wall is that somebody has to clean that crap up, right? And a lot of it slides off because you gave no thought to what you're doing. You gave no thought. I'll give you an example. I have a client in the catering business, and they've just redone their website. And he sent me a video the other day. And he said, we're going to put this on the site. Tell me what you think. Well, the video was shot at a venue, and it's a beautiful venue, but it makes it look like a promo for the venue. As a matter of fact, at the end of the video, instead of it being the caterer, it's the people who own the venue talking about their venue. And I said to my client, why in the world would you put this on your site the way it is? Yeah, use pieces of it. But because they didn't shoot the video with the strategy in mind of, we're going to use this on our website to create business, right? To bring attention to this special small piece of what we do, they ended up shooting a video that was a promotion for the venue. If I were them, I would go sell this video to them. Right. But because they didn't sit down, and I'm not talking about spending hours, I'm talking about a 10-minute thought process of, okay, we're going to an amazing venue, we're going to shoot this video, here's what we want, here's the 5 things or the 10 things that we have to give the videographer so that we're sure we get what we want, right? There was no strategy, and so while you don't always know what's right, and look, it's business. You're going to make mistakes. Not everything you do is going to work. There's risk involved, So what you have to do is, I love this quote. Somebody once said, the great thing about marketing is, in the real world, we would call it failure. In marketing, we call it testing.
Yeah.
Right. And although that's true to some degree, even when you test, if you test the right way, you minimize the risk. Right. So you don't go out and spend $10,000 on Facebook ads. You go out and test $200 or $500 or $1,000 and see what happens. If it doesn't work, here's the thing that I know. You can't multiply zeros. You can, but you always get the same number, right? 0. Well, if that's the case, or you're not getting the ROI that you want, then stop. The problem is that people don't know what their ROI is, and they don't measure. They don't look at it. They just go run the ad, and $5,000 down the road, they go, oh, well, that didn't work. Wasted all that money. Facebook ads don't work. Yeah, you're right. Facebook ads don't work. We know that's not true, but it's true for them.
Right.
True for them because they didn't take the time. They didn't test, right? They didn't test it small. Okay, well, that's not working. So strategically, what do we need to do? Let's change one thing about the headline and see if it increases, right? Okay, that didn't work either. Should we change it back or leave it? Well, which one got a higher return? Which one got more clicks? Well, the original one. Okay, well, then put it back to the original headline. Let's change the photo. You change one thing at a time. And while that can sound tedious, if you flip the switch a little bit, it's fun. Because once you figure it out and you know, oh my gosh, it was the photograph, or oh my gosh, we added one word, or we changed the headline, or whatever it is, then you know that, and you can use that as a lesson for everything else that you do in your marketing and in your business, right? It's not just a one-time thing. And you have to change one thing at a time, because if you change more than one thing, then you're not sure what it was that affected the positive change. Now, the fun in this is once you have, let's say you're running that Facebook ad and it's at a 3-to-1 ROI, right? Every dollar that you spend, you're making 3. Now, the fun part is, how do we bump it to 4? So now you have a control, right? At 3-to-1. What can we tweak? What can we change? What can we modify to increase that from 3-to-1 to 4-to-1? So we figured that out. Now we're at 4-to-1. Now we can play the same game. What do we do to make it 5-to-1? It doesn't necessarily mean that you stop running the ad that's at 3-to-1. Maybe you run both. Maybe you modify and change the list that it's going to, right? You segment down a little bit more, or you widen it out a little bit more. To me, that's the fun part of business and marketing, is the tweaking, because it's like sports. You can always do better, right? No one bats 1,000 and no one hits 100% of their free throws. But the goal is always there to do that.
So Diane, we tested that for the Life in Air Show podcast. We had Peter's picture and it didn't work out so well.
Really well. Yeah. And then we put this picture in there. People saw no hair and they're like, eh.
I bet you, Peter, if you switch your picture and if you put the part of your hair on the other side.
That's a real.
Diane, to that point, I've already tested that.
Yeah, you did. Good for you.
And I got a better response on that side.
Okay. All right.
Better ROI. When I started doing, actually, no, it's fun.
Part it in the middle. I want to see it in the middle. Part it in the middle.
No, yeah. I used to wear my hair totally different, right? And then I met this girl, and later on, I started changing my hair, and now she became my wife. So maybe the hair that flipping it this way worked. So
okay, let's tell the truth, Peter. She changed his hair, Diane. Don't let him make it. Let's make that clear.
Whatever works, man. Whatever works.
So how does it
go with that? All right.
So Diane, I have a question.
The marketing worked in some shape or form.
So how did you mentioned this with people giving up in business, people giving up on their marketing. And by the way, I think marketing is like, it seems like it has such an interesting perspective in business owners' minds, because some business owners just hate it. Some people love it. Some people feel like it's a must, even though it's like going to the gym. I have to market, and I think it's kind of what you're talking about, where so much of it may be a trial learning experience, and they look at that as as money they're not getting a return on it. How can someone shorten that learning curve, or how can they kind of change their perspective on marketing? Because especially, Peter and I have talked about this many times, is like when a business starts getting crunched for cash, oftentimes marketing is the first thing they'll cut. Yeah. And which that might not be a good idea.
Which is the opposite of what it should be.
Right. Yeah. So how can people have a better perspective on this and actually, and by the way, someone listening right now may feel like, well, gosh, if it's not working, I don't have the time. I don't have the expertise. I don't know what I'm doing. It sounds like a lot of work. How can I actually do this? I got a business to run. How do people do this? Like in real life?
Well, it's a great question. And here's the thing, right? So for me, the answer is simple. It's ABM. Always be marketing. Always be marketing, right? And understand that everything you do is marketing. Let me say that again. Mm-hmm. Everything you do is marketing. The problem isn't the marketing. The problem is that people think, oh, I have to push people. Oh, I have to be sleazy. Oh, I have to all of these perceptions that people have in their head are wrong. And so if you'll shift that paradigm, and that's all it is a paradigm, right? If you shift your paradigm a little bit to understand that everything that you do in your business is marketing, from how the phone gets answered to the signage that you use to brochures, business cards, if you have them, whether you have one that's, digital or a paper one like I picked up the other day. All of that is marketing. And so marketing isn't something that you do. Marketing is something that you are.
Yep.
Business is. It's all about marketing, because when you decide you're not going to market anymore, pretty soon you're going to find yourself OOB, out of business. And so I always laugh when people say, oh, we're going to cut the marketing budget. Really? Then how are you going to bring new clients in? How are you going to make money? And they always stop, right? The other big mistake people make is saying, okay, I'm going to spend $5,000 on marketing, or $10,000 on marketing, or $100,000, whatever the number is. And when we get to that point, there's no more money left for marketing. Really? So you're telling me that if you, let's say 10,000, because it's an easy number. If you hit $10,000 and you spend $10,000 on your marketing, but you have a 5-to-1 ROI and you made $50,000 on that you're not going to spend anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Only makes
Right.
sense. Yeah.
But because people think of it as spending, it's not spending, it's an investment. And it's investment that just paid you $5 for every dollar you spent. So a lot of times the people look at me like I have three heads when I say that. So here's the example that I give them. I say to them, if we were in LA right now, that's Los Angeles, California, or you were in LA and I'm in Atlanta, and I said to you, if you could get to Atlanta by 10 o'clock tonight, because it's about that time in the morning, right? 12 hours. For every dollar you bring, I'll give you $5. Would you find a way to get there? Would you pay whatever amount of money you had to pay to get on the plane to do that? And everyone says yes. Well, that's the same thing as you're doing with your marketing. Now, you don't know if things are going to work, but you can lower your risk by doing things like having a coach or a mentor, working with somebody who understands marketing, having, and if that doesn't work for you, then go read and study every world-class marketer there is. Get on their lists, right? Get their emails, get on their mailing list, have them send stuff to you. Yeah, mailing list, as in like put a stamp on it, mailing list, like real mail. Go find out what they're doing. Here's the problem with that. You've got to know that who you're following is I would say is a direct response marketer, because if you follow these big companies who have millions of dollars to put into their budgets, you're going to be doing the wrong things because you don't have that. So find people that are like you, that are successful, not that are successful on social media, that have nothing wrong with fancy houses and cars, but is that really the measure of success? That have true business success, that have been around. I love what Russell Brunson says. He says, I'm never going to work with somebody who hasn't at least failed and crashed one time and come back. And he said, my preference is 2. Why? Because if you've crashed, if you've lost it all, if you've gotten to the point in your business where it's gone to hell and you've built it back, that says something about who you are. It says something about your constitution, but it also says something about how your ability to market and learn from and regrow, right? So it's this piece of, look, at one point, I spent more money. The first couple of years I was in business, I invested more in marketing and books and tapes and seminars than I made in my business. I'm not saying do that. It's not a great long-term strategy, or maybe it is, right? Maybe it is. But you have to put money into yourself and you have to grow. And here's the other piece that I would tell you. If you hate marketing and sales, then find somebody either to partner with or hire somebody who loves that. Because there's no reason for you to spend 80% of your time in your business doing stuff that you hate and that you're not good at. What are you good at? What do you thrive at? What brings money into the business? And do that and bring somebody in to do the marketing and sales, because why be miserable? If you're spending even 20 hours a week, right? Let alone most people are spending 40, 50, 60 doing stuff you don't like, but it has to be done. You have to market. There's no way around it. And if your business is a roller coaster, if the money in your business looks like this, then you're not marketing all the time. What's happening is on the upswing, you're marketing, and you get to the point at that top of the where you're bringing money in and things are going great. and you stop marketing because you're so busy doing the thing. And when you stop marketing, now it goes like this, right? And by the time you realize it's going down, it's gone down this far. It's like, oh my gosh, we have to do some more marketing, but it takes it a little bit of time because it's going to continue to go down before it goes back up, right? And so what I tell people, instead of this roller coaster in your business, if you're always marketing, it should be more like, this is my health and fitness background, it should be more like steady state, right? So it should start, let's just say it starts here. Well, it's going to go up a little, but it's going to be kind of steady, and then it's going to go down a little, and then it's going to have a spike, and then it's going to steady across, and maybe it has a little bit of down. And in the end, you're still higher than you were at the beginning, but you don't have these massive swings in your income and in your mood and in your energy, because it all flows together if you own your own business.
Yeah. Yep. Totally.
Yeah. And if you do it the other way, like you were just saying, the second time, as you're going up this little scale, during that time, you can see what the holes are in your business.
Yep.
I need to hire somebody. I'll have time to do that. So you can constantly just keep scaling, as opposed to, oh, we tapped out, we can't do anymore, so let's turn off some of the marketing, and then you have to do it all over again.
Exactly.
And I think that's a really, really good strategy. So,
and the other piece is you're learning along the way, right?
Yeah.
What that worked, that didn't work so well. Well, why didn't it work? So after everything that we do, I call it an after action report. What worked well, what didn't work very well, what would we change, and given the same circumstances, would we do this again? Sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes it's no. If it's no, then put it aside. But understand that would we do this again, and the results that you got may be dependent upon certain things. For example, we've just come maybe out of a pandemic, right? Things that happened prior to were very different than what happened during, which is very different than what happened now. When things happen in our world, like wars or shootings or elections or tornadoes hit or whatever, some things that we can't control, 9/11, things are different. And so you have to look at what was happening during that time, and was that a reason why maybe something didn't work as well? And so maybe we should try it again. But along that whole line, while you're marketing and while your business is growing and having these dips and things, you're learning. And I think sometimes we forget to go back and look at, okay, what did we take out of that? Would we do this again? Yes or no? What can we tweak and change? Nobody takes the time, because we're constantly that dangling carrot, it's there and we never quite reach it. And we're constantly going after the next thing, that we don't take the time to analyze and really study and look at. Even, I'm not talking about hours, guys. I'm talking about 15 minutes. Sit down with your team, stand up with your team if it's 15 minutes, right? And have this quick analysis that you go through, because if you don't have strategy and if you're not thinking about these things, then again, you're throwing mud on the wall.
Yep. And so, that resonates a lot with me, because I remember when I was flipping houses actively, I would do all this work to get a deal, and then I'd jump right into the rehab, and all of my marketing, all of my deal acquisition would go by the wayside until the house is almost done, and I realized I didn't have another one. And it was up and down and up and down. I think a lot of real estate investors do that. Yep. Talk to me about so one big thing that I heard you say is you don't have to break the bank when you're marketing, especially when you start off. You get a proof of concept, you make sure it works on a smaller scale. How does what is a realistic size that someone can expect to because I'm imagining there's probably also some statistical significance as far as a sample size that we have to account for. Like if you send a mailing to 100 people, is that enough? Like, for instance, how do you start to determine what that minimal viable first few attempts look like, so that you're not just wasting money because it might be destined to fail if it's too small,
right?
To get some information. How do you determine that?
It's so easy today. I mean, it really is so much easier in today's world, because we have so many inexpensive and quick ways to test things, right? You don't have to go buy a list and invest in a mailing list and lick stamps, or have the cat lick the stamps, or, and put stuff in an envelope and print things. That's expensive. I mean, that can get really expensive. But, first of all, there's three things that I look at: message, market, and media. I call it the marketing triangle: message, market, media, right? And they're all connected. And if you get one of them wrong, it's not going to work. So when you think about what's my message, and is my message on point to my market, and then who's my market? Specifically, who's my market? Not just, oh, well, it's women. Well, that's way too big, right? Who's the market? It's 45 to 60-year-old women who have been in business for 5+ years, who are making between $500,000 and $1.5 million. They're married with 2.3 children. Don't ask me where the 0.3 comes in, but there's always a 0.3.
Half a dog.
Right, half a dog.
Yeah.
They live in the suburbs. They drive a car valued at. Now, where do you get all that information, right? Well, part of it is demographic, which is easy. The psychographic part is a little harder, but you can have your list profiled and find that out. But my point of telling you that is that who specifically is your market? Not, well, it's women who are looking to make a change in their life. Well, I can't go buy that list. That's how I determine it. Can I go to a list broker? Not that you're going to, but could I go buy that list? So the market is very important. The message is, are you speaking to the market? And then the media. And this is the part that people screw up. Well, I ran Facebook ads. Well, who's your market? Well, the CEOs. Well, they're not on Facebook. They're on LinkedIn. So your media was wrong, right? But people think of online as like this one big mass thing. It's not. Where are people hanging out? And so those three things, when you get them together, and all of those three things line up, makes all of this so much easier. And so that really will determine that piece. Now, as far as the sample size, it's easy now to run a Facebook ad or a LinkedIn ad or an ad on Twitter or Pinterest or all of these places or even go online, right? It's more expensive to do like a banner ad on things, but I test almost everything that I do with clients on Facebook. Why? Because it's quick. Because I can have a much larger sample size, right? Let's say it's 100,000 for less than $500. Well, that's amazing, right? So if I can get it to work, now this is going to sound contradictory to what I just said about media, but if I can make
marketers,
right? If I can make something work on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, and here's why it's contradictory. Here's where I'm going to take the contradiction back. And that same market is in an offline media or another media, then I'm most of the time, I can transfer what worked on, let's just say Facebook, into another media, sometimes online, sometimes offline, where I now know with a certain assurance that it's going to work. In the olden days, right, when I first started, we didn't have that. Direct mail was about it. Mm-hmm. And so you had this major investment. What I tend to do if I'm going to go offline, like a direct mail kind of thing, I almost never do less than 500 mailings, and I'd rather do 1,000. But if somebody has a really limited budget, you can get good numbers off of 500 to start, and then you roll it out, maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000 at a time. I am never on an offline where I'm investing money like that. I'm never going to drop 10,000. I'm never going to do that. I'm going to keep rolling out 1,000, rolling out 1,000, rolling out, or 2,000, right? Even with big clients, because again, something could happen that changes all this. And now I don't have this big output, but you can start relatively small. Again, you don't have to start small a lot of times if you're doing stuff online, because it's easy to expand the target or shrink it based on what you want to find out. But the key here is measuring.
Yeah. And I think repetition too. I mean, consistency, right? I mean, when you go off the line to direct response, you don't mail out just one mailing.
Right. Always. Well, the only time you would mail one is if you got a 0 response. But typically we're going to mail a minimum of 3 times, and usually somewhere between 7 and 10 days apart. Same thing online. The reason we talk about marketing funnels is that there's never just one message. People need the repetition. They need to see you out there. The biggest compliment I ever get is, "Oh my gosh, Diane, I see you everywhere." I'm like, yes. You can't be everywhere, but the image that you're omnipresent is totally what you want. That means people are seeing you.
Got it. So we have a couple minutes left, Diane. I want to summarize a couple main points that I heard from this. Tell me if I'm correct or if I misspeak, and then let me know if I miss anything. Number one, marketing has to be looked at as something you are, not something you do. This is something that you have to kind of encapsulate, and you're really, I guess, in the marketing business, no matter what business you're really in. Two is you got to be marketing. Pick a number in your budget that you can afford for consistency. Don't just go out and spend all your money on one mailing or one funnel or whatever, or one set of ads. Test and analyze your data and look at what's performing, what's not. And that's your starting point. And you don't have to start off knowing all the answers, but you just got to get started, because you mentioned doing the right things versus doing things right. And so you got to get things started. Tell me what other suggestions or mistakes have you seen business owners make that we can help them avoid?
Well, the one that you just said is one. Don't just do one thing. One is always the worst number unless you're married, in which case you should.
Right.
Good point.
One is always the worst number, because if that one thing doesn't work, you're out of business, right? Don't put all your eggs in that one basket. Test, measure. If you're not measuring, you're throwing you're putting your head in the sand. And that's no place to be in your business. Be patient is the other thing that I would tell you. Stop comparing your behind the scenes footage to everyone else's highlight reel. That'll get you in trouble every time. And that's what we do, right? Don't make those comparison things. Be patient. The only overnight success is in your mind. It's not the reality. What you didn't see is the 10 years of the person struggling, or the 3 years of the person struggling. You didn't see all that. All you see is what you see now. And that's not reality. And so I think having that piece, and then, the other thing I would say is don't try to do everything yourself. That's the big mistake that people make is, I'm not making enough yet to hire somebody. Well, you could hire somebody for one project or one piece. Maybe they just do your newsletter. Because when you hire somebody, it frees up your brain and your time and the space for you to be more creative and have the vision and invest some time doing some of the things that we talked about. Here's the other thing. If you bring somebody on, people think, oh, I'm hitting this person 50 grand a year. I don't have 50 grand. You don't need 50 grand. You just need the $1,000 to pay them next week. Worry about it from that perspective. But I know for me, when people ask me, what would you change if you had to start over again? I would have done everything in my business sooner. I would have hired coaches sooner. I would have done events sooner. I would have had masterminds sooner. I would have hired teams sooner. I would have done everything sooner. So, and the other piece is have some fun. We get so like, gosh, doing this business and making money and crushing it and killing it, and have some fun. I mean, this is your life. It's a part of your life. It's not your whole life. I have actually one of my clients made me, she's in the quilting business. I have a saying, it used to be attached to on my hutch. Now it's on the pillow that you can't see, but it's making a living while making a difference. And I said, you know what, maybe that should be switched. Maybe it should be making a difference while making a living. And so to me, that's what it's about. It's about touching lives. It's about touching hearts. It's about making a difference. I just got an email this weekend from somebody who came to me 3 years ago, had put no money back. She'd been in business 12 years, never taken a salary, wasn't making any money, and just made $18,000 last month. Now, to some people, that's not a lot of money. But for somebody who's in a small niche industry where her average sale is about $150, that's a lot of money. And just made a big sale for $800. And so, celebrate your wins, take your time, don't be in such a big hurry, and get some help.
That's awesome. Awesome. Diane, how do people learn more about what you do and your services? Sure.
It's really hard. You can find me at Diane Conklin in most places. The website is completemarketingsystems.com. It's an old website, it needs to be redone, but all the contact information is there. Any of the social media places you can find me. Just reach out. I'd be happy to have a conversation or help in any way I can.
Awesome. Thank you for being on Life Fair Show, Diane.
Thank you. It was an honor. I appreciate it.
Dude, that was cool, man. I really enjoyed speaking with her. And I think she has a real knack for this. Like, she just feels like she has this thing dialed in. And I love her approach of, keeping things simple, starting small, testing. One of the things I'd say that Life Fair has been guilty of in the past is like early on, and this is kind of even before I stepped into the picture here, like I know some of the marketing efforts that were done, like they weren't really tracked very well. And we didn't, they either produced the result or they didn't, but we didn't really like dive into why, like what's the reason why this worked or why it didn't work. And I think that's something that I got from Diane is like, you really got to test this stuff.
Yeah, and not only do you have to test it, I think, but you have to test the right thing. You have to look at the right numbers to be able to test, because depending on how your funnel is, and we didn't get into this on the podcast with her, is depending how your funnel is set up, you can be looking at the first little part on the front end and you start looking, oh, I'm losing money, we should stop this. But if you look at the bigger picture of the whole funnel, you're making money over here on the back end. Now all of a sudden you're making money. So you don't
that's true, dude. So we didn't even talk about that, but let's say you're an electrician, right? And you're doing this marketing for some service you provide, and maybe that service, you're spending $100 on marketing for each customer you obtain, and each customer is spending $100 to you. You might look at that and be like, well, what's the point? I'm not making any money. But all of a sudden, if you track those people over time and you realize they come back for more, they sign up for your other services, or they have you do other stuff, like that's where you can make your money. And so, I once heard someone say, I don't remember who said it first. Maybe it was Dan Kennedy who said, he who can spend the most in marketing wins. And what he meant by that is not that you're just blowing money blindly and foolishly, but that you can spend the most on obtaining a new customer because they're spending the most with you on the back end, because you have that funnel set up, and the marketing is really the front end of that funnel.
And it's front end of the entire business. And that's one of the things that she mentioned too. And I see it all the time is we talked about it too on the podcast. That's the first thing people stop doing.
Yeah.
They're short on money or whatever. It's like, that's the first thing that goes out the window and should be the last thing.
Right.
So I love that she mentioned that. The other thing that she talked about is we market. I mean, look at marketing everywhere, right? I mean, one thing I love about Dan Kennedy, which that GKIC is all about, is he looks from different industries and he starts looking to, okay, what can I take from here and apply here and things like that. And when you start looking outside in the world, when you walk around the world and you start seeing those opportunities, maybe you can go and take it and put it in your business. We were just at, you mentioned that too, and we were just at the retreat here, and we went to dinner a couple of nights ago, and a couple of people at the table were getting a drink, margarita. We went to a Mexican restaurant, right? And the waiter, freaking brilliant guy. He goes, so margarita, somebody orders it. He goes, would you like to get a shot with it for an extra $1? Simple question. But people go and just boom. And all of a sudden there's an upsell in that very simple little moment. Yeah. And then, would you like a carrot cake with that or whatever it might be?
Oh yeah. Or your friends order these drinks. Would you also like one? Social proof, right? Perfect.
Exactly. Right.
So dude, and I think that's huge, man. Like if that's one, like that was one of my favorite nuggets, I think, from this interview and there's a lot of great stuff in here, but like when you learn that mindset to look for stuff and then use it for yourself, even when you go to a fast food joint, look at the menu. Why do they have things ordered that way? What's the logic with the pricing? Like, what verbiage can you adapt for your own business? Like there's stuff is everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. And like, you can learn so much from it.
Yeah. Because she's mentioned in the beginning, ask the question why. No longer like, oh, they're doing that, but why are they doing that? Like she talked about, why is that speaker taking the jacket off at that particular time or rolling up his sleeves at that particular time, right? When somebody's been around for a while and that, big corporation, things like that, they test things like crazy. So you can start looking at it and, that billboard, that menu that's up there, why some of them don't have a dollar sign before the actual dollars? They just have like, say, $10.99. There's no actual dollar sign. You ever seen like the high-end restaurant, when you go into a high-end restaurant, they don't have dollar signs on their menu. Steak, $78. It just says that, right? There is no dollar sign next to it because all of a sudden that looks more expensive. Or, and it all depends when you start looking from that perspective, getting to know your client. She mentioned that triangle, right?
Yeah.
The media, market, and message, right? And you start looking from that, all of a sudden you start putting the pieces together. Yeah. And the marketing starts getting a little more and more successful.
And along with that, like knowing the strategy of why you're doing it, like, your marketing efforts and the message you present probably will be influenced a little bit by what you're trying to accomplish with that specific marketing piece or that campaign or whatever it is, however you run it. And so knowing what your outcome you're looking for is really, really important too. Yeah, man, I love marketing. I think it's a lot of fun. And I think it doesn't get the credit it deserves sometimes with people.
Yep, because it's can be sometimes like it's a hard thing for people to grasp.
It almost, yeah, sometimes it almost feels like gambling. Like you may as well just go to the casino, black or red, right?
The thing
is,
is,
work?
think about it. Yeah, think about it. You've been marketing your whole life. You've been marketing to your kids. You've been marketing to your wife. You've been marketing to your parents. You've been marketing to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, it's just in a different sphere.
Yep, totally. Well, hey, listen, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. As always, we'd love it if you would share this, subscribe, like. Also, we would love to have you in our private Facebook community over. Just go to lifeinair.com and you'll find it on the website as well. And we have awesome conversations going on over there every single day. We'd love to have you be part of that as well.
Awesome.
All right. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.